Good morning, it's Medical Monday. You know what it means. We have Dr. Roman Nation here and the lovely and vivacious Scarlett here to talk about being healthy and keeping a healthy weight.
Yes, sir.
Now, you can't fit into those old jeans. Maybe it's bikini season and you can't, you don't want to wear one.
Yeah, we're halfway through summer already.
What's the difference between just losing weight and losing weight in a healthy way?
Well, there's lots of ways to lose weight. You've seen lots of commercials on the HCG diet and even the oral HCG diet stuff.
What did you call that?
HCG. It's basically human chorionic-tropin hormone. It's basically the pregnancy hormone is what it is. Mm-hmm. And it's the dominant one that becomes more prominent during pregnancy. Mm-hmm. What it does for people who aren't pregnant, in both men and women, is it can help stimulate testosterone production. Testosterone production is directly related to increasing your metabolic rate and then increasing muscle mass. By increasing muscle mass from exercise, your metabolic rate goes up. It also helps you shrink because muscle weighs more than fat. So
you're kind of tricking your body in a way.
Yeah, it's a natural phenomenon for us that happens as we get older is our body makes less and less of lots of stuff. It makes less skin cells. It makes less.
So we get wrinkly.
Yeah, you get it has less moisture in your skin. It has less thyroid hormone production, which is related to body temperature. It has less ovarian, estrogen production. So that's why when we talk about women as they go through menopause, where they get moody and grouchy, or they have hot flashes, or they get all the wrinkles around their mouth, and those are all related to estrogen production. So that's one of the ways that are kind of what I would call a sham diet. Is they've done studies on using HCG, both the oral version and the injectable version of HCG, and that they combine it with what's called a very low calorie diet. It's a VLCD, and it's 500 calories a day. And yes, for sure, you can lose weight on 500 calories a day.
So it really depends on your body weight, how many calories you need to take in? Or your desired body weight?
Well, no, not necessarily, because if you skate too far below, there's what's called your metabolic rate, which is how many calories your body will burn in a given day. If you skate too far underneath that, your body goes into starvation mode, so it actually starts holding on to more fat and it slows your metabolism down. Whereas if you skate just barely below that, it's around 300 to 400 calories a day. And that's where you get that 1 to 2 pounds a week phenomenon. Is a pound of fat is 3,500 calories, and so you skate just barely below that to do that. But there's a lot of other components to it. It's not just the calorie intake, because a lot of folks will try to starve themselves by not eating, or they'll only eat once a day, and they'll try to have 1,500 calories in one meal, which is really, really bad for your metabolism, because your body thinks it's in starvation mode for 22 hours out of the day. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the stuff that we teach folks is to eat smaller, more regular meals. Like Scarlett, what'd you have for breakfast?
I had part of a chicken sandwich from yesterday.
You had some chicken, and what do we usually have for breakfast? What have we been trying to get you to have for breakfast?
Oatmeal.
Oatmeal for breakfast.
I don't like oatmeal.
Oatmeal's good. I love oatmeal.
It's a bit of an acquired taste, but yeah. Mm-hmm. She likes eggs for breakfast. Eggs are a really good source of protein in the mornings. Egg whites are one of the purest forms of protein you can get in your body. So when we talk about pork products you have to have almost twice as much of the consumption of the food in order to get some usable protein out of it.
Really?
So we don't recommend pork products for most things, for just about anything as far as our diet stuff goes. But chicken is a good source of protein. Eggs are one of the best sources of protein. Fish like albacore tuna, those types of things, and salmon are really good sources of protein, and they're really good sources
When you say eggs, you're talking egg whites or the whole egg? Or?
Egg whites, yeah.
Now, what's the problem with the yolk? Is it too fatty?
The yolk has some protein in it, but it has a lot of cholesterol. So when you combine, each egg white has about 3 to 4 grams of protein in it. And when you add the egg white portion to it, the egg yolk portion to it, you actually add cholesterol. A little bit of cholesterol is not bad. It's when you put 4 or 5 eggs in order to get the 20 grams of protein in there that you're adding a whole lot more cholesterol than your body needs or could use, so then it stores it.
So maybe you do 4 or 5 eggs and only 1 yolk in there.
Right. That's a very good combination, because it gives it some flavor and it gives it a little bit of cholesterol, and your body does also need healthy fats, multiple times a day in order for it to move on. So
I'd like to talk more about the other meals throughout the day.
Sure.
After we go to our local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation and Scarlett, and we're talking about proper nutrition, the number of meals you should be eating, and the types of things you should be eating to keep a healthy weight. We talked about breakfast.
Yep.
You know, we've got to have that little dose of protein. We've got to have how many calories?
Most people are between 15 and 1,800 calories a day, but the heavier they are to start with, their metabolic rate is actually higher, so they actually go with a higher rate. We have a lot of patients that have been to other trainers and nutrition people and stuff like that they were really trying to keep shaving their intake down, and they were getting hungrier and hungrier, and their body was plateauing, and they didn't work. So what you actually have to do at that point is increase your calorie intake and go back up. Increase your water intake, keep your activity level the same, and we've had a number of folks that have that, and they actually got stronger, they got more athletic, their energy level increased, and then their weight kicked off, and they started losing weight again.
How many meals a day do you recommend?
At least 3, preferably 5 to 6, depending on how long you're awake. So the key part is the first meal needs to come within 30 minutes of your eyes opening and your feet hitting the floor. Lots and lots of folks, they get busy in the morning, they get up, they take a shower, they don't eat breakfast, and then 2 hours later is when they finally eat. When you do that, your body's actually working at a deficit at that point, and then it's trying to catch up all day long.
So you kind of put yourself in that starvation mode
right
out of bed.
Right off the get-go.
Like I do. I pack down the coffee, try to wake up, hit the car, maybe have a little something to eat afterwards.
Yeah, the coffee by itself is not a problem. It's adding something to it. Now, if you can't make eggs or something like that for breakfast, or make them at night and store them for the morning and just heat them up on your way out the door, then use protein shakes. We have lots of folks that do that. First thing in the morning, or even little stuff like lunch meats or chicken or any other types of things that you can heat up.
Hard-boiled eggs are good. You can
actually
boil those up, have them there for the next morning. If
a number of our staff members have hard-boiled eggs for breakfast.
Hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah,
They're so good.
So what did you have for breakfast?
I had a half of a chicken sandwich that my dad made me eat.
The chicken sandwich, right? So you had your little protein thing. Now, what are you planning for lunch?
Probably. Well, people bring us stuff at lunch, but probably, ideally, some chicken and salad.
Salad is a big component of what we do. The vegetable component adds fiber, which helps the processing of the proteins. So,
okay. And when's lunchtime for you? If you're eating 4 or 5 meals a day, you don't have a traditional lunch hour, do you? Or halfway through the morning you get a snack?
Well, it's really when there's breaks in patience. But I keep stuff at my desk for, as you train your metabolism to get used to getting fed every 3 hours, your hunger mechanism works better and your thirst mechanism works better, meaning that your body will tell you, hey, I'm thirsty, go get something to drink. Or, hey, I'm hungry, and so I'll stop for just a little bit in between and have part of a protein bar, part of a protein shake, or something like that.
How important is hydration to this whole
It's a huge
diet?
Portion of what we do. We've had a number of folks, when we start them on our nutrition program, the first thing we tell them is you got to increase your water intake. Most people take about 30 ounces of water in a day, sometimes less. Most adult women can use about 3 quarts, which is 96 ounces of water a day, about 3 times that. Most men can use 120, which is a gallon of water a day.
He drinks a gallon of water a day. I should drink half of that. He says that.
Yeah.
And she does a pretty good job at keeping up with that, and she's tried some of the protein shakes. Protein shakes are a little difficult to get used to because they're not laden with carbohydrates like most shakes people think are. So
They're
it's
not
a little
for the taste. They're for the
it's a little dry to get used to. But once you do kind of get accustomed to it, just like switching from Coke to Diet Coke, your
And
body.
that would be like a mid-morning meal, I suppose. Yeah.
Or right before bed. There's another strong component of what we do, which is to make sure you have something before you go to bed, and that is so that your body has something to work on, something small to work on while it sleeps. So
But it's got to be small.
Yeah.
Don't eat a big meal before.
No.
Don't sit down to a big steaming plate of lasagna and then go to bed.
Yeah. We have a lot of
probably
folks
a bad
that kind of mishear when you write the prescription to say take this at night. They take it at dinner time when it's really at bedtime. So when they do that, it's the timing gets off. So they.
So how do you time your? I know you're busy with patients and all, but how should we time our meals? You've got breakfast, a mid-morning snack, lunch. mid-evening or something?
Middle of the afternoon snack before you get off work,
Mm-hmm.
and then after work, and then something, depending on when you do if you're going to do your exercise piece. Some people do it first thing in the morning. If you do it first thing in the morning, you have to be careful with it because
Mm-hmm.
you need a little bit of something and not exert yourself. Otherwise, your body gets confused because it can't digest and exercise at the same time. But in the evenings, if you eat and then give your body a little time to digest, you have about 30, 45 minutes for it to work on it, and then you go do your workout.
But a little bit of protein with each one of those meals,
yes,
right?
yeah. Protein every meal is a really strong component
And lots
of
of
what we
water
do.
throughout. We're
Yeah.
so out of time, it's not funny, but thanks so much for coming on the show. And good to see you again, Scarlett.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hi, this is David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. There are three things that may make your car run: fuel, fire, and air. Today, we're going to be talking about the air and the air intake system. Early automobile intake systems were very simple air filters connected directly to the carburetors. A modern automobile intake system has three parts. It has the air filter, the mass airflow sensor, and it has the throttle body. Air enters the engine through a snorkel tube located just inside the hood. The raw, cold air comes in contact first with the air filter. A particulate air filter is a device created of fibrous materials that removes the dust, debris, pollen, and bacteria from the air before moving into the engine. The filtered air then continues through the snorkel tube to where it reaches the mass airflow sensor, or commonly known as the MAF sensor, M-A-F sensor. Mass airflow information is then transferred digitally to the electronic control unit, or the brain of the vehicle, for which it tells how much air is entering the vehicle and how much fuel should be distributed in connection with the entry of the air. The throttle body controls the amount of air being distributed back into the engine. Whereas the mass airflow sensor measures the air, the throttle body actually controls the air. This in turn controls the amount of fuel ratio to be delivered back into the engine. And keeping a clean air filter, keeping a clean throttle body creates better running vehicles. I'm David Lovett, and this has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247 and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neuropain Specialists. Notice I read his shirt every time because I'm not that smart to get it all down, but Dr. Aaron Shores, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to see you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Doctor, I wanted to ask you about your particular specialty where you're treating, the spine and people with pain. Are they typically older people, or who's your average patient?
My patient population runs the gamut. I see a lot of folks that are maybe in their 50s, 60s, and older, but we see a lot of patients that are maybe in their 20s, 30s, or early 40s that have been in some sort of a traumatic injury, or the auto accident, or workers' comp injury of some sort. So my patient population runs the gamut.
How do those patients pay for your services? Because after all, everybody gets paid for their work, and I know a lot of people have different types of insurance. And me being a retired military guy, I'm, for now at least, I've got TRICARE until they revisit that again, I'm sure. Do you have many patients that are using the Affordable Care Act, and how's that affecting your practice?
Well, the Affordable Care Act, I should just tell you for your viewers, is based on, my opinion on that is just based on my observation in my practice. But I've seen here that I know of, I've seen two patients here recently that actually have been a participant in the Affordable Care Act.
Only two?
Only two.
And I would imagine you have more than 4 or 5 patients in your practice.
I do, thank goodness.
Yeah, so that doesn't make up a large part of your practice.
No,
then,
not at
does it?
all. But I've seen several patients that have been adversely affected as far as changes to their policy or their expenses going up in my practice. But as far as active participants that I'm aware of, I've only seen 2.
So there's 2 active participants that are beneficiaries of this that have been a good thing.
Correct.
But then conversely, you see people kind of forced into that Affordable Care Act, I suppose, by legislation, and now they're not so happy?
Well, I've had lots of patients come to my practice and tell me they've tried to register and have had complications being able to register on the site or the site's down. But
even at this point in time, after all that kerfuffle over the initial launch, they're still having problems.
I had a discussion with a patient yesterday that said that they've tried to register numerous times and the website's always down or they're not able to get through. But I've seen lots of patients in my practice that have either lost their policies because my understanding is there's a threshold that each insurance policy now has to meet by carrying coverage for substance abuse and pediatric coverage and several other different requirements. And if you're a 60-year-old single male with no dependents, your kids are grown, I have several of those in my practice where their policies were terminated and they got a letter from their carrier saying that your current policy, this was end of last year, first of this year, their current policy didn't meet the mandates set forth by the new Affordable Care Act, therefore your policy is being terminated. And these patients were either forced to go without insurance and try to register on the Affordable Care site or obtain some other insurance, which some have been able to do, but some have not. Or they've had to choose another plan where their deductible is substantially higher. I've had several patients that have come to me and say, well, last year my deductible was $500. This year it's $10,000, or it's $5,000, which can be a substantial improvement if you're on or a substantial increase in cost if you're on a fixed income.
Yeah, if you're a retiree, you take our theoretical 60-year-old man whose kids are grown, he's single. He's trucking along pretty well with the insurance that he has. He gets a letter one day saying, "Hey, you've got a junk policy. You've got to get rid of it." And that's the way I guess it's been characterized, that the policies that people had previously to the ACA were somehow substandard because it doesn't cover pregnancy, it doesn't cover drug abuse, doesn't cover prenatal care, things like that.
Sure.
What's a 60-year-old man need that for? But Doc, don't you think it's kind of selfish? If you don't get those policies, shouldn't that 60-year-old man be paying for others when it comes to pregnancy and drug abuse and all the other things he may not need?
In my opinion, I think patients should be allowed to choose the particular policies that best fit their needs. Certainly there are a few good things about the Affordable Care Act, as far as waiving some pre-existing coverage, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And waiving co-pays and things for certain cancer screening programs. But I think those things could probably fit into the marketplace as it is. But the one thing I see on a daily basis in my practice, in my opinion, more so this year than in previous years, is just the expense that's been passed on to the patient. A lot of patients, their deductibles, or even for a regular follow-up visit or for physical therapy, for example, patients are having trouble being able to afford that because their copay to go to physical therapy may be $75 a visit, and if you need to go 2 or 3 times a week for a month or so, that can be quite
You're
substantial.
talking real money after a while, especially for someone on a fixed income.
Absolutely, and patients unfortunately just aren't always able to do that, despite our best efforts to be able to work with them.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see the way this thing finally unfolds, but
yes, sir.
Thank you for the good work you do and working with these people who have kind of fallen through the cracks.
Yes, sir.
And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Thomas Winterman, who's the author of The Thrive Life, and he's going to give us our Thrive Tip of the Week. Thomas, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So your book, just so people who don't know, is really about your personal journey and also advice to others on how to live a better, happier, more productive life.
That's right, yes.
Did I do it justice?
You did it justice.
Okay,
I think that's right.
Now, what tip would you give us for the week? Here we are, it's Monday, we're starting a new week.
Yeah.
What's on your mind for this week? What should we try to do this week?
Well, the biggest thing that I run into with people is that they all want to lose weight. And one of the quickest and easiest ways is to change your diet. And something that we all tend to do is we try to jump in a little too fast. We want to go from 3 double cheeseburgers to strictly salads. And that's a problem. It's too much change too fast. You can't go from 3 double cheeseburgers, which is where I was at the beginning, to mostly salads, which is where I am now.
And for people who don't know you, you lost a substantial amount of weight.
85 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, a whole other person just about.
And you've turned your whole life around, too.
Yes,
you went from
that's right.
85 pounds overweight, couch potato, going nowhere fast,
right,
to what now?
Going somewhere fast.
Going somewhere
that's
fast.
Right.
Published author, psychologist, is that an overstatement?
Counselor.
Counselor?
Yes.
Okay. You got your
Counseling.
master's degree?
Yes.
In counseling?
Yes, I did.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah. So when it comes to eating, when it comes to what you put in your body, the best thing you can do is go for what you would normally go for. If you were a 3 double cheeseburger guy, think about the 3 and make one small change. Go for 2. You get the large fries, get the medium instead. Start making small changes, little things that can build up. Spend a couple weeks developing a new normal for yourself. Then eventually you're down to 1 cheeseburger. You're down to maybe apples instead of fries. And then slowly but surely you move yourself to that all salad diet that you want.
So cold turkey is not a good idea for anything.
No.
So, and I guess that can work with anything, like
right.
smoking. Instead of trying to quit smoking, go from a pack a day to a half a pack, or 5 cigarettes, or maybe just 2,
Right.
or change brands to a lighter brand,
Right.
and just kind of wean yourself off and get yourself used to that new normal.
Exactly. Too much too fast and you'll crash and usually end up worse than where you started. I had to learn that the hard way.
Okay, so our tip of the week, if we want to lose a little weight, go from 3 cheeseburgers to 2.
Small changes.
Small changes, just
That's
a
right.
step at a time.
One step at a time.
Thomas Winterman, author of The Thrive Life, thanks so much for coming on the show, and thank you for that Thrive Tip of the Week.
No problem.
And we'll see you next time.